With chronic pain, we go through a lot. It is lonely. There are mental gymnastics all over the place. Who even has spoons? Who even has spoons? So, when we are adding in fitness or exercise, movement, it can feel like a lot. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the ways to get started and continue your fitness journey with chronic pain. Let's just cozy up and let's talk about that. 3 years ago, there was an accident. I broke my left hip that required surgery. I had lots of injuries and body trauma, and they later found out that I have a bulge in my L4, L5 that pinches a nerve. So it's been a great time, as you can imagine. And these are some of the things that I learned along the way when it comes to chronic pain, when it comes to injury and limited mobility. It's all a lot. So let's get into some of the things that have helped. The first thing I had to acknowledge, training was not going to be the same. And that meant a lot of shifts for me mentally. So I had to be kind of okay with the fact that things were going to take a long time, that I may not be able to train the way that I used to, and find a lot more body connection first. When I first started exercising after, physical therapy, I was fully discharged. I started first just figuring out what exercises, what movement patterns made me feel good. And I started with those. I made a list of all the things that didn't really feel good, just so I had not just that documented, but also so that I could try them later and just see how those felt then. But the ones that did feel good, I started there first to keep me encouraged, to keep me motivated to keep going. And I also went with a volume that was appropriate. That was hard at first. It was hard at first to have programming but not be able to do the whole session. But once I just allowed it to happen. I just did the bits that I could, the chunks that I could, take whatever modifications I needed. And by reducing it down to a manageable place and being okay with that, that's when everything really started to shift. And it could be that I only did one set of each exercise and didn't worry about the rest of the session, because if I did, it was going to exacerbate the pain. My body was just going to be way angrier, and then I wouldn't be able to do it tomorrow. So I made it very manageable, very sustainable. And at the time, I was worried, right? Because I wanted to make sure that I was progressing. But if I was pushing myself too much, I was just going to be backsliding because I wasn't going to be able to get the consistency in. So I decided to go with consistency and doing the things that felt good. And then from there, once I kind of had an idea and I had this better connection with my body in that way, from there, I started exploring other ways of movement. Variety is your friend. Once you've established this relationship, this connection with your body, you kind of understand what it is and isn't about right now. It just what it does and does not want to do right now. You can start to explore other methods. You can explore other things and just go with the most beginner class or the most beginner movements and just play around. Playing around is the best because you can go at your own pace. You are not tied necessarily to sets and reps. You are kind of free flowing. You're free flowing with it. So you can pick a variety of movements that you want to do, take things down to the least challenging, and just play around with them. And that's why I really like calisthenics, is because it just has this very playful thing about it. And you can break up the monotony of whatever you're doing if it's starting to feel stale. The other thing about variety is that that you're hitting a fair amount of not just body parts but movement patterns in different planes of motion. Let's just say dancing. You're doing maybe more twisting and you're doing more, you're all over the place. You're all over the place with dancing. Dancing is so great. Isn't it great? It's so great. But then if you are doing resistance training, you're probably getting some of the fundamentals there. But if resistance training isn't feeling very good right now, or you don't feel very stable, like I would love to do barbell training, but I don't trust my leg. It collapses out from under me sometimes, and having a barbell on my back terrifies me. Know your limits. Know your limits. Know your limits. By having variety, then I know that I'm giving my body the best shot at being strong in all the places I have access to. I would try all these different things. What are you doing? I would go for walks really regularly because that was something that I could do, lower impact, something that was mellow that I could zone out to. I found that especially going out like out on the trail or someplace really pretty, then I could calm my nervous system and I could start to get into a more of a zone. Whereas for a long time, I could not get into one at all. It was really, really difficult. My body did not feel like my own. And any opportunity that I had to connect with it was extremely helpful. And I felt so much better afterwards. And by being consistent, by staying along with that track and not giving up, not pushing myself too hard, all that consistency paid off. And I still got stronger. For a long time, I was really nervous to try yoga, like the physical practice of yoga. It just seemed like it was just going to be too much, but I was completely missing the forest for the trees. There are so many great gentle yoga practices out there. You can connect the breath with the movement. So it's not just you kind of get into that meditative movement, but also because it is so slow and so gentle, you can decide pretty quickly what you want to get out of and what you can go deeper in. You can make adjustments in real time that are way easier to make than if you're in a flow class, for example. About a year and a half ago, I decided that I wanted to learn how to run, which that seems crazy thinking about like learning how to run for the first time after breaking a hip and pinched nerve and like I just wanted to see if it was possible. And when I started, I could maybe run 10 seconds at a time. It felt weird. Like it just didn't, like the mechanics just didn't make sense in my body. But I just kind of kept playing around with it and I kept trying. I was going on walks anyway. It's just running those 10 seconds every once in a while, maybe just once the whole walk, but I would just play around with it for a little bit. And what was interesting was that even that teeny tiny bit, it carried me through. And it started to become more comfortable. It started to become something that I actually enjoyed, which I didn't think was going to be, but I did not think was going to be the case at all. So I was playing around, not even really, I had no outcome. I had no goal that I was working on other than just learning how to run. So playing around, you never know where it'll take you, and you never know how things will change. And I ended up this last April, I ran a 5K. I ran a, I completed a 5K. I made it. And that's something I never thought I would do. I never even thought that was an activity that I wanted to do. I just did it just to see what would happen. So, getting in that curiosity, just playing around, trying something that you have never, even if it's just like that's crazy. Sometimes the that's crazy thought ends up being something really awesome. Or it doesn't, and who cares? The main point is stay curious in your training. If you are having a hard time putting pressure on yourself, it's not going to help. With chronic pain, we go through a lot. It is lonely. There are mental gymnastics all over the place. Who even has spoons? Who even has spoons? So when we are adding in fitness or exercise, movement, it can feel like a lot. And we got to give ourselves some grace. We got to give ourselves some grace and play. Just play around. Have fun. And when you are in a place where you haven't been moving very much and it's all just been a lot. Any little thing you do is going to count, especially. I mean, it counts anyway, but it especially counts and you can get stronger and you can build on it. Just work for that little bit of consistency. Even if it's just a tiny, tiny bit, even if you're like, I'm going to give myself 5, 10 minutes to do some sort of activity, do it. Just do it. Even if that means just rolling around the floor stretching, like whatever it is, moving your body in some way, getting in the habit of moving your body and figuring out what it needs. Those are two huge things that take some time, but you will be rewarded because you will be so far ahead. You'll have a much better understanding of how to handle yourself through all of it and what's appropriate for you, while also staying curious about what would happen if you tried something that seems a little outlandish. Overall, I think overthinking it makes it worse. Being okay with the small steps and just taking the time to really feel into all of this, making it a little more holistic. I mean, that's the real sauce. That's the real sauce. The rest will come, and the rest will come. Speaking of the nervous system, have you tried Yoga Nidra? It's kind of amazing. And there are some where it doesn't have to be a very long session either, but it's so awesome. You get real cozy, you lie down. It's a meditation, but there are ones specifically for chronic pain. There are ones that are just body scans. It feels like a spa moment. It's nice and cozy. You've got your blankets, your pillows, you're all good. And you are guided through a body scan where they call out body parts. Come on, Edgar. They call out body parts to relax. And you just lay there and you systematically relax your whole body through this guided meditation. The first time I did it, I actually cried. I actually cried the first time. It just brought the nervous system down. It calmed me down, kicking in that parasympathetic nervous system. And I just found that the pain lessened quite a bit. And I've been practicing it pretty regularly now for a while. And especially on the days when the pain is more than usual, Yoga Nidra saves me. It saves me every time. I would definitely try that in general. That's not even fitness related. I feel like, again, coming at it from a holistic place, looking at these other techniques is really important. And so when I think about fitness with the things I have going on, I'm not just thinking about it in terms of reps and sets or time or distance. I'm thinking more about it in how I feel all the way around. And it's so funny because I never thought I'd be the healthiest version of myself after having so much happen. But here we are. But here we are. And taking the holistic route can absolutely do that for you. Look at all the ways you can feel better. And fitness is just one of the things in the toolbox to help you feel better. And if we root everything in feeling better, it's all good. It's all good. I didn't want to just cope. I didn't want to just. That looks really inappropriate. My cat is in my lap. You can't see her. That looked really inappropriate. There she is. I wasn't lying. Anyway, what was I saying? To look at things holistically, it's worth feeling a little more ease. So that's all I gotta say about that. Above all else, stay kind to yourself. Find little ways to love on your body, even and especially when it doesn't feel like yours and you're really struggling. I I really feel you. I feel you if you're struggling. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, and especially when you're in a place in which there's not really an end in sight. There may be periods of time where there's relief. I get nerve ablations in my back, but I'm due for another one, and I'm not sure when I'm able to get back in to that doctor. I'm just dealing with what I can right now. If you're in a place, if you're in a place where you're not alone and you are still awesome, you're still worthy, you're still a badass, you actually, no, you are an absolute badass. This is hard. This is hard, and you're doing it anyway. And you're looking at ways to take care of yourself with fitness, even though right now everything is hard. I commend you. You are a badass. And you got this. And thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you want to hear more cozy up ramblings from the couch and my cat. Um, I'd love to have you stick around. Please comment below if you have any questions, if you have anything to contribute, any other tips. Comment any video topics you would like. just what's on your mind, because this is a hard thing, and I feel like we can all take care of each other as we can. I know we all have low spoons, but we're all in this together. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Happy training, and you are a badass.